we are talking to Marty Ray of the Marty Ray Project today. What's up, Marty?
What's
Welcome
up?
to the show.
How y'all doing?
Hey, really good, really
Doing better
good.
now.
We've just had a really fun time even before we started the interview, so I know this is going to be really good.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
Just chatting back and forth. I'm wondering, Marty, are you warmed up? Could you do like a chorus of Ice Ice Baby for us before we start to break
sure.
the ice?
Just the chorus, huh?
Or whatever you like, whatever part of
Yeah.
the song.
All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly, flowing like a harpoon. Daily and nightly, will it ever stop, y'all? I don't know. Turn off the lights and I'll glow to the extreme. I rock a mic like a vandal, light up a stage and wax a chomp like a candle dance. Caress the speaker that booms. I'm killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom, deadly. When I play a dope melody, anything less than the best is a felony. Love it or leave it, you better gain weight. Better hit bullseye, the kid don't play. If it was a problem, I would solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it. Ice, vanilla ice, vanilla ice, ice, baby. Oh, ice, ice, baby.
Woo!
Oh,
I hope
man.
that didn't peak.
Oh, that
I hope
was
that didn't peak
fantastic.
the situation
No,
here.
chills. And what
Uh-huh.
were you going to say, hon?
Chills. I felt that through the mic.
Yes.
Made you want to go back home to Virginia, didn't it?
Oh, I was home. I was already there.
He was.
sir.
When I talked to Scotty the first time, I said, you're going to love this guy. And I think you guys have the same kind of taste in music, like from your roots, you know?
Oh,
so
yeah?
we'll talk more about that too. But
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for that, Marty. That was beautiful. It was actually the first song of yours that I listened to, and I've listened to many more since then. But the familiarity of it and the way that you do it in that style is just gorgeous. It really is.
Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you so
thank
much.
you. I am Laura Cathcart Robbins. This is the only one in the room, but I'm never the only one in this room because, as usual, my boyfriend, producer, and co-host, Scott Slaughter, who I call Hun, is here as well.
Hey, honey.
Hey, Hun. We can call you Hun too, Marty. So we don't.
That makes me
we
feel
don't-
better.
Yeah, we don't want you
we
to
don't-
feel left out.
Not at
Especially
all.
if Scott does it. So,
Right?
yeah. I want him
People
to
like that.
Yeah, I want him to feel like I'm going to force him to feel like he's back home right now.
All right.
Okay.
He's got a
You're
hook
gonna
in
like-
me, doesn't he?
That's funny.
Uh-huh.
I want you, every
so-
time you address me, Scott, from now on, I want you to end it with Hun, okay? Hun?
All right, hon.
All
I
right,
like
hon.
your hat, hon.
Thank you, Hun.
Oh my goodness. So let me just tell you a little bit about Marty Ray because he's amazing. He is an indie artist, songwriter, and podcaster that will always be an independent, which I love, and I want to find out more about that. He has amassed a fan base of over 1.4 million fans and 200 plus million views across all social media platforms. The quote here is, "I'm just a guy that Jesus put here to sing and write songs. Some people seem to like them." I love that. Marty is also an actor that has starred in TV shows like The Detour on TBS, Zoo on CBS, and Preacher on AMC. He has acted in various independent films as well. Before he accomplished anything in music or acting, though, he had a podcast. Back when podcasts received barely any attention and very few people knew what they were, he was podcasting. On his podcast, The Marty Ray Project, Chats, he has interviewed Bert Kreischer, Matt Serra, Herb Dean, Dina Carter, Leslie Satcher, and many others. He is now writing an article for publication that highlights indie artists like himself on top of everything else. Needless to say, anything that involves entertainment, he is open to it. So, again, welcome to the show, Marty. We're so happy to have you.
Thank y'all so much for having me.
Oh yeah. And this is actually going to be a little bit of a departure from our normal kind of question and answer session because you and I talked earlier a few weeks ago and decided that there's a story that I really want you to tell that I actually haven't heard yet. You just teased it enough so that I was really excited about it. So we're going to get to that. But first I'm going to ask you just a little bit about because I know that music came to you really early in life. It came to you through your mom, especially. I don't know if it came through both your parents, but can you talk to me a little bit about that and what influences came to you as a kid?
So my mom, yeah, I definitely, all musical influence came from my mom and my uncle, really.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and that kind of was birthed out of church. So they both kind of listened to Shirley Caesar and Mahalia Jackson, all old black gospel music, which is what I still listen to today. That kind of music is really what I love the most. But my mom also listened to Southern gospel music, which I don't know if, I mean, I know Scott knows what that is because he's from the South originally, even though he don't claim it. But I don't know if y'all in L.A. know what Southern gospel is or not. But it's the old, victory is mine, victory is mine, victory today is mine. I told Satan, get thee behind, victory today is mine. That's kind of like Southern gospel, see?
Ooh.
And,
Kind of like.
Yeah.
yeah. Hun, you forgot Hun.
That's just. Oh, I forgot.
did
Hun.
forget
Yeah, I'm
Hun.
working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if he does that again, we're going to have to get him out of here. Okay. I can't handle that. So kind of my music taste growing up was as a boy was just a lot of Southern gospel and black gospel. But when I was in the car with my mother, she would have one of the two on. So if she had Southern gospel, I was more apt to say, hey, put some Shirley Caesar on or some Mahalia Jackson. So there's something about Shirley Caesar's he's working it out for you. I know that he is. I know that he is. You know, have you ever heard Shirley Caesar?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh,
man.
yes.
She
Oh,
still
yes.
gets me to this day. So that was where the music love for me, because I would just sing with them, and that's where it began. As I grew up, I kind of started listening to R&B, Boys to Men, people like this,
Yeah.
Jodeci, New Edition, these guys. And then that morphed into Al Green, Ray Charles, these people. And then because you just continue to expand, country music was not something I listened to growing up because I thought it was old people music because my parents listened to country music, so I didn't like it. And until my mom took me to a Garth Brooks concert, I was 12 years old, and we went to a Garth Brooks concert. She forced me, actually. We went to it, and I saw this show, and he was swinging on a rope out and all over the crowd, and he was breaking guitars and sliding through fire. And I thought, man, maybe I should give this country music a look. This don't look like old people stuff here. So I started listening to Garth Brooks as well and loved every song, knew every song. And so that kind of drove me into listening to Charlie Daniels, and Charlie Daniels into Leonard Skinner, and then Leonard Skinner into B.B. King and Albert King and people like that. So then, but the anchor was always and still is Mahalia Jackson, who hangs on my wall right beside B.B. King, actually, in my office. Mahalia Jackson and Shirley Caesar and these people, Rance Allen. Man, what amazing. So that's kind of where my musical, that's kind of the whole journey of my music right there. There's some
Yeah.
hip-hop in between there somewhere. I didn't mention the hip-hop. I did listen to Beastie Boys and Tupac and stuff like that as well back in the day. So don't really listen to too much now. But
Boy, that is just fascinating. And I think what comes up for me, because you were born in Memphis, you were raised in Arkansas, right? And you live in
Right.
Nashville currently. You live in Nashville currently?
I live in Nashville, yes, right now.
Okay. So, and I beg anyone who's listening to please check out our YouTube channel. If you haven't seen Marty Ray, please, check us out and then look in so you can see this magnificent beard that he has. This man does not look like a Tupac fan or a Boys to Men fan,
That's
right?
true.
You're not somebody that I would have said, oh yeah, he's into black music. Was that an issue growing up? Was that a departure from your peers that was the type of music you listened to?
No, like I said, my uncle who has always sang in church was and still does. I looked up to him and I thought he was the greatest. I still think he's an amazing singer, and he'll move you like nobody else in the Holy Ghost, and he always sang like them. Matter of fact, the black churches, because we went to a church, a Pentecostal church that was mixed. It was like there was black people and white people and Mexican people, and that's kind of how it was, and it still is that way. But the actual black churches would ask my uncle to come sing because they loved his singing so much, because he was they still do this. They still do this to this day. He sounds so much like there's something about the soul that comes from Mahalia Jackson and Shirley Caesar and Al Green and these people that you just don't really get in. I'm not knocking Southern gospel. I'm not knocking any type of other music, but that's just some people don't vibe with that as much as the soulful music. So my kind of, I guess, singing style is a blend. I used to not like it when people would look at me when I first started making videos. I would like the Ice Ice Baby, and I did been spending most of my life living in a gangster's paradise.
Yeah.
Try to make a better life, but I'm stuck here in this gangster's paradise. So doing that, and then people going, never thought I'd like this song, country. And I go, well, you still don't know.
Right.
That's what I used to say all the time. You still don't know if you like this country. And they go, oh, you're a country artist. I said, why do you think that? Because you see a beard on me, and I look like a cornbread country boy, because I am that. I'm a country boy. But that don't mean that every time I open my mouth, I'm singing country music.
Yeah.
So I always used that kind of used to offend me a little bit, that everybody would look at me and think no matter what he sings, it's country music because of the way he looks. I never did like that. But then I just started saying, yeah, well, I'm glad you like it. You know, after a while, after years, you just start going, well, yeah, give some country music a look then, I guess, and you'll find out that there might be some other stuff you like. You just give up after a while.
Or I was just going to say they were prejudging you based on your appearance, that this would be the type of music that you sing.
Yeah, this has to be the genre that you're in, by the way you look. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to – I actually have one more question before we go to the story.
Okay.
It sounds like you grew up as a fan of music. When did you start singing? How old
I
were
came
you?
out of the womb singing. I tell
you did?
people all the time. When I cried as a baby, it sounded like a song. That's what my mama says.
Oh.
That ain't true, but I say that.
That's
Some
a good
people,
one.
I actually quote that a lot as a joke, but some people didn't know it was a joke, and they started asking my mama, these people that know me, of course, they started asking my mama, did you really say that? And I'm like, you really thought that I knew that my mom, when I cried as a baby, it sounded like a song? Please, you got to know that's a joke. What baby could cry and it sound like a song? It was definitely not that.
Right?
Yeah, that's so
But so
beautiful.
you grew up singing with her?
I grew up singing my whole life. I would mimic other artists, really. So I would, like the people I just mentioned, I would mimic them and try to sound just like them. So if it was Boyz II Men or whoever it was, I wanted to try my best to sound like them, and I thought I did a pretty good job. But as you grow up in the place where I grew up, you grow up in a area of what I call realist. They don't believe that that you should dream beyond your city limits. You know, you can't really do that. You're taught not to do that. So there's a steel mill there, and we were taught that even in high school, if you weren't an academia superstar, you were taught, hey, you better go and get your degree in something that allows you to get a job at Nucor, Yamato, so that you can get a good job there. And that is a wonderful job, $100,000 plus a year. So it is a wonderful job, but it's not something that God meant for me to do.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. Clearly. This is what you're supposed to be doing. So you mentioned earlier that Mahalia Jackson's on your wall, or is it Shirley Caesar's?
Mahalia Jackson.
Yeah. And next to B.B. King, right?
Next to BB, yep. Right
so
there.
Tell me about the B.B. King show. This is the story that I've been waiting to hear. Start from the beginning and tell me the whole story.
So years ago when I first started making music, the first thing I did was, because like I said, I was told that this wasn't a realistic thing, that music would never, you can only make a living with your hands. You can't make it with your mind really, or you definitely can't make it with your talent. He never was saying you weren't good. My mom never said you weren't good. They both said that you're great at what you do. I love it. And she would make me sing for people or whatnot as we're at a holiday or something. But they never, ever said, hey, you should go after that. You should do something with that, because it just was not taught small town that I'm from that you should go after a dream that seems impossible. So I kind of had that in my head. I never really went after it, never thought it was real until I believe it was around 2005. I got a Apple MacBook, and it had GarageBand on it. I opened it up and I started recording myself, and recorded an old hymn that goes, "What a beautiful thought I've been thinking concerning a great speckled bird." So that old hymn, I did that, and I made a video of it. And when I made that video, the video got it seemed like it got about, if I remember correctly, about 30,000 views on Facebook. So back then I thought,
Wow.
now I'm famous. I thought, well, I've done made it now in music. I did what they said I couldn't do. And that's not the case. I'm still towing cars and still working on cars with my dad. But people started calling the shop, and they would say, "Hey, Marty, when you coming out with an album?" And I started thinking, man, that's wild there now. Maybe I should do that. And so then I started taking all these songs because I'd been writing songs just for fun for a long time anyway, and I started writing these songs, and the first song I wrote with music was called Tow Truck Driver, because my dad, we are all tow truck drivers. So I wrote that song, and I had 4 songs. I took the 4 songs and spent every last dime I had, went to Nashville. A buddy of mine that had moved to Nashville when we were 18, he helped me make this album, get this album done, and it was an EP, and I carried this album I started going to shows and trying to meet the people, the artists that I was coming to see. I was fan of these artists, and I would go see them, and I would try my best to get a chance to give them this CD. I thought this was how I'm going to make it right here. Handing my music to another musician is how I'm going to make it, which is not how you're going to make it in music. But I thought that at the time this is how it's going to happen. But what did happen so I'm doing this. I'm doing this over and over, and as I see them, I hand it to them. And at this particular show, it was at Gold Strike. It was B.B. King, and I called my buddy who was the one that was overbooking the entertainment at this venue. It was like a theater venue, theater seating at the Gold Strike Casino in Tunica, Mississippi. I mean, and so I asked him. I said, "Is there any way I can get back to meet B.B. King?" He goes, "I think I can get that done." I said, "I'm going to bring my guitar." So I got a Martin guitar that is an acoustic Martin. So just to preface it with that, I get to the show, and he gets me front row seats. I'm on the front row, and BB comes out, and at this point he's an old man. He comes out, they put him on a chair in the middle of the stage, and he looks out. He can't see because the lights are in his eyes, and he's doing this, trying to see who's there. And he says, turn the house lights up." And so they turn them up a little bit, and he looks out. He says, "I still can't see. Turn them up. And so they turn the house lights on, and he says, "Boy, ain't y'all some beautiful people," like this. And he just looks around. He's got his hand on his hip, He used to always do this, and he's looking around. He goes, "All right." Starts playing, and of course they dim the house lights back down. They're going back down. He plays that song, and after that song, he goes, "Turn the house lights back on. I can't see my people." And so they turn them back on. He ends up playing the whole show with the house lights on, which I thought right off the bat, wow, what an amazing man. No wonder he's called the King. And so about toward the end of the show, he's getting ready to play. He's actually starting playing "Thrill Is Gone," and he's playing the horn section. He's got the whole thing going, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I'm just sitting there, like this in my own world, going back and forth with my head and just jamming, and my eyes are closed. And BB, all of a sudden you hear everybody, he stops playing. "Everybody hold on. Everybody just hold on." Puts his arms up and tells them, you hear everything stop. And they're like, "What the heck? We messed up or something." And he looks over, he has his hand on his hip, and he looks over there at me, and he says, "As long as that man right there is having a good time, so am I." "Thrill is gone away. I said the thrill is gone." And I'm going, at this point, it's hard to focus on the show because you have no clue why this is happening. You have no clue why BB stopped his show and pointed at you and said this. Now all the crowd's looking at me wondering, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And my buddy who's with me is going, man, you know BB? And I'm like, I don't know BB personally, but of course I know BB. Everybody knows BB. And I'm just sitting here. Now everybody's like hitting me on the shoulder. And it's like, I'm like, hey, yeah, well, I don't know what's going on here. And so then after the show, he wants everybody to come to the front. So he's like, he could like the old way, and everybody would crowd around the stage. And since I had been on the front row the entire time, I let everybody else get in front of me. So they're all crowding in front of me and getting to experience the final song on the front row as I did. So I just let them do that. And then after the show's over, BB has guitar picks in his vest pockets. And he pulls these guitar picks out and he throws them, tries to throw them to the fans. And they don't reach because they're light. And so they just spread out close by him. And so these fans are getting up on stage and trying to grab these picks. And the security guards are throwing the fans off the stage, and BB's getting mad because he loves his fans. Wow. And he says, hey, stop that. I'm giving those picks to them. Stop that. And the security guard, they're just doing their job. They won't let nobody get close to BB. So they're throwing them off. BB gets so mad that he pulls his gold bracelets off of this arm, and throws half of it over here to this side of the crowd, and half of it over here to this side of the crowd, then pulls his necklace off and throws it to the crowd. And I'm sitting there thinking, I should have got up at the front of that stage instead of being a nice guy, because I could have that on my wrist right now. You would see that today. I would show that to you.
Yes.
If I had that, I would still have that. And then so I was like, well, you know, I feel good that at least somebody gets to go home with some BB gold. So afterwards, everybody's leaving. There's it seemed like about 50 people that were going backstage they were supposed to be family of BB. So I was really the only one back there that wasn't family, because it wasn't like meet and greet tickets that you could buy. It was just, BB had a very large family. So, and we were in Mississippi, and that's where he's from. He's from that area. So all these people, I'm waiting in the back of the line, but before we get to the very back, they're leading us on the side of the stage, and it's very dark and it's very narrow, and they're leading us with a flashlight so we can see where our feet are. And there's a row of security guards that are standing there with their arms crossed like this, so that you can't go onto the stage. So you're walking by this row of security guards, and everybody walks by, and I'm at the end. I'm trying to wait at the end, so nobody gets upset that I'm not really BB's family. I think they can tell that. I don't know, but I think they could look and say, you're not part of his family.
Right.
And even though he called me out, from the thing. So as I'm walking by here, by these security guards, I'm trying not to fall, and I'm looking, and so there's somebody with a flashlight, and I'm following this light. A hand comes out between these security guards as I'm going by and grabs my hand and pulls me towards the security guards. And then I'm being pulled like this, and the security guards are going, hey, you got to move on. What are you doing? And I'm like, somebody's got a hold of my hand right here. And they look down and they go, oh, and they split, and it's B.B. King in a wheelchair. And he waited for me at that right there to come by there. And he grabbed my hand and pulled me to him. And he looks up and he goes, I want you to know I enjoyed having you here tonight. And I said, I want you to know that I love you. That's all I could think of saying. And he says, well, and I had the album, which is actually in this picture frame, this album that hangs on my wall with BB's picture. I had that in my hand. And he looks at it, he goes, what do we have here? And I said, this right here is you can't even talk, right? You can't find the words at this point, because here's B.B. King. He waited for you, and he pulled you to him, right? And you're like, and he's mad at the security because they were mean to me and they were mean to the fans. He goes, y'all hold this flashlight. And they held it, and he signs that thing. He goes, I sure was pretty back then, huh? And I said, you still pretty to me, Mr. King, like that. And he goes, I see you back there like that. And I said, okay, thank you. And so I'm walking back. I wait in this long line, about 50 people. And I'm looking, as they're going into the room, I'm watching people be turned away that want to get their guitar signed, but it's not a Gibson guitar. So they're being turned away because he was contractually obligated to only sign Gibson guitars, apparently. So his management his management was turning all these people away. I have a Martin guitar, and I'm thinking, man, I ain't gonna get BB to sign my guitar. But it's already been an amazing night. If it don't happen, it's been a truly divine night. Because at this point, I was giving up on music. I was saying this is as far, because this was a point where I was like, I gotta look into something else. They were right. This is too hard. This is way too hard to do. I was giving up, and this was kind of the final show that I was going to go to, and I was going to give him the album. And if anything happened, it happened. But I was kind of like, nothing's probably going to happen. Nonetheless, I'm waiting in this line, and I finally get to the door. The door's open into the green room. BB's sitting in a chair. I'm watching the final person before me go in, and BB's just, his energy's drained. And he's just really wore out, and he sees them, and he smiles, and he does the picture, takes the picture, and moves along. And then I walk in with my guitar, and I walk in, and when he looks over at me, he goes, "Hey, my friend," and I go, "Yes, sir, thank you." And so I come over, I hand him my guitar, and he goes, and he looks up at the head of it. He sees Martin, and he looks up at me, and he says, "I'm going to sign it anyway." And he signed B.B. King, which is on this guitar right here.
Wow.
See that, B.B. King?
Look at that. That's amazing.
This is the exact guitar. You see, that's a Martin.
Yeah.
That's probably the number one competitor in acoustic guitars to Gibson, I would imagine. I don't know that that's a fact, but that seems like that would be the case. So he not only signed a different guitar other than a Gibson, he signed their probably number one competitor. Because it was me. And why? Because God just made us kindred spirits in this moment, this beautiful night. So then if it ended right there, it would be amazing. It's already amazing at every step of the way. This story sounds unbelievable. It sounds impossible to believe, but it's all true. And it's even every time I tell it, I get emotional, because the next thing that happened was what made me, was God's way to say, you're going to keep on going. And I look at the scripture, Proverbs 18:16 says, a man's gift makes room for him and brings him before great men. So I was actually trying to use the gift that God gave me, and he used these kings, these massive men, great men, to keep me going in a time when I didn't have any fans. I didn't have anything going at all. I had no hope, really. And here comes B.B. King, and here comes Charlie Daniels. There's another story about him, but we're not telling that one today. The fact is that I get in there, he signs that. I pull this EP out that I had made, and I hand it to him. He looks at it, and he goes, well. And he goes, "Who's got that Sharpie?" And I said, "No, I thought he thought that I wanted him to sign my album."
Yeah.
And I was going to keep it. And that wasn't the case. He said, "Who's got that Sharpie?" And they bring it back to him, and I'm going, "No, Mr. King." I said, "It's for you." And he goes, "I know who this is for." And he hands it to him, and he says, "I want you to sign this to B.B. King." And so I pull the sleeve out shaking. I pull the sleeve out of this album shaking, and I say, to B.B. King, and that was the first autograph I ever gave, was to B.B. King, and I put it back in there, and we're holding that album in the picture of me and him in this same picture frame. It's like a collage, same picture frame. It's me and B.B. holding that album that I signed to him in this picture. Take this photo. And he says, "Boy," he said, "I want you to know that I love you, and never give up." And he takes his album, and he puts it in his pocket like this, and he goes like this. And I said, "Man, I love you to death." And I walked out, and I thought, now BB and I are going to collaborate or something. We're going to do something. We never did anything. Never met him again after that night. Never once did I meet him again. But I like to think that he rode on with that album on his bus until the day he died. And I'd like to get it back if there was ever somebody that came up, if somebody, his family or whoever, they said, "What is this album of this old country boy doing here?" And then they just find me and give it to me. That would be amazing. But that's it. That's the story.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Marty, I mean, so many things in that story. First of all, made me well up. You tell it so beautifully, too. And I wanted to just, because it ties into your only one statement about, the kingdom, right?
That's right.
Like, you're building this kingdom through music. So I didn't know that you were at the point where you thought you might be giving up then, which makes it even more powerful.
It really
I just
is,
want to, a couple of things. You didn't live in Mississippi at the time of the show. You drove there for the show specifically?
Tunica is right by Memphis.
Oh, it's right
really
there.
Close. Yeah, it's really close to Memphis.
Yeah,
So,
Scott's nodding. He knew that.
yeah.
Familiar.
So
Okay.
that's all the casinos. Gambling is not illegal in Tennessee, but it's legal in Mississippi across the state
Right.
line. So
Right.
Tunica is right there. Yeah.
Right. So you drove there, and at the time, what were you doing for work? Was it still tow truck?
Yeah,
Okay.
I was running my dad's tow truck company that he opened in West Memphis.
Okay.
I've been doing that
And
for years.
And so the idea was that maybe you should stick with that and give up on music at that point, right?
That was that was the idea. It was real more of a, hey, I'm going to be doing this the rest of my life unless
Right.
God does something with this music.
Yeah.
I've done my part. I've done what I know to do. I don't have I guess I don't have the stick-to-itiveness that I need to just, because I got had a wife and children at this point. So I was like, I can't just forsake it all and go on the road. I'm not an 18-year-old boy. So at this point, I'm in my 20s. I had to make a decision, and I said, this is the way it's got to be. If I've put forth the effort, and hopefully you'll honor it. If you don't, then I understand. That's what I told
Yeah.
the Lord.
And then so you go to this concert of your hero, not expecting to have this kind of transformational time that you had there, right?
Yeah, not expecting it at all. I didn't think that. There's no way. How could you expect that, right? How could anybody go, this is going to be a night, that people are going to think you're lying
Right.
about. That
Right.
you don't have that. You don't ever have those moments. But I
So it's
always say I
divine.
want my testimony to be impossible. I always pray this. Let my testimony be impossible to believe without faith. So that's what I say all the time. And I'm telling you, it is. It's impossible
is.
to believe. Yeah.
It is. I mean, each thing, like you said, it was amazing enough that you got to sit in the front row, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if that had been it, of like your biggest hero, that's enough, right?
That's enough.
And then you got, he singled you out after turning on the house lights, which I've never been in a concert when anybody's done that before. That's an amazing thing to want to see the people that you're connecting with
That's right.
and insisting that they stay on throughout the
That's-
performance.
That's why he's the king.
That's why he's the king. And then to be backstage and have that hand, that's a really powerful image, just this hand reaching out for you.
Man.
And you had no idea who the hand belonged to, but just that you needed to follow it, right? It was
Yeah. It gripped me so hard there was no
Yeah.
chance. Like it was a firm grip and a big hand. He had a massive hand, BB King. So yeah, it was
And-
amazing.
And then the encounter that you had where you were sure you were going to be turned away because of the make of your guitar. And not only did he sign it, but he asked you to sign your EP for him, which he then kept and put next to his heart.
Right.
Amazing. It's so
Isn't
powerful.
that wild? That
Yes.
is wild. Is that not wild?
It's wild. So tell me how it is that you're building a kingdom through music.
So when I first started this thing, I told myself as a Christian, I said, I'm only going to do Christian music. And it was like God said, if you label your music Christian music, only Christians will hear your music. And I said, I said, okay. He said, I'd rather you be an artist that is a Christian so that you reach beyond the church. And I said, okay, because Jesus said, I didn't come to preach forgiveness to the righteous, but to the lost. So that was my mission when I started, and it still is. So unless he changes, unless he moves me to something else. And I can tell you time and time again of all the times that there's been many, many moments and instances where people have messaged me on Facebook or Instagram or somewhere and said that your music, the fact that you did this cover or that cover of this song, which is a secular song, saved my life. And one in particular just really wrecked me. A guy sent me a message. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm just saying it because you asked me how. So this guy messaged me one day, and he said, last night I had a gun to my head. I was going to pull the trigger. And he said, I had YouTube playing in the background, and your song, your cover of Let Her Cry came on, which is not a Christian song at all. He said, your cover of this song came on, and something told me to put the gun down. That's what he said. He said, so I put the gun down, and I messaged you. And I said, let me tell you something. I said, that was the Holy Ghost telling you to put the gun down. It had nothing to do with me. I said, I'm just a vessel. And I said, I want you to know that Jesus loves you and he needs you here and he died for you and he gave his life for you and he wants to fill you with his spirit right now. And so we get into a conversation where I'm praying for this guy, and I don't know, after that, I don't know if the guy, he didn't stay in contact with me like every day, but he said that, man, thank you. He was just so appreciative of that and me taking the time to talk. So that's what kingdom building is. If people aren't doing it, if somebody calls themselves a Christian and in every aspect of their life, especially their career, they're not reaching for people in that way, then they're not really Christians. That's the truth. So I hate it if I offended somebody, but that's just the truth. Anybody listening, I love you anyway, even if I offended you.
No, I mean, the way I think of it is divine, and that feels divine, that connection that you're talking about right there. Like to have somebody come to you from the ether, like from nowhere, right? You don't know this person. You've never met them. You probably never meet them. But there's something out there that you've put out in a way that they can reach out to you because it impacted them that way. And that reaching out is an intervention, right? That person was intervened on. And like you said you were the vessel. So not by you, but you were the human form that this intervention, through which this intervention took place.
That's what I'm trying to be.
Yeah. So how what's your ideal for this? Like, are you picturing yourself with, because you sound like a preacher to me, and I know that's part of it for you, but are you picturing like a forum where you can sing music to people and create those kind of connections on a regular basis, or just concerts? Like how do you see yourself going forward?
The thing about it is, the Bible says, I trust in you with all my heart, Lord, and I lean not onto my own understanding. I don't have the understanding. So if I could make a million plans and God will laugh at them. You understand?
Yeah.
So I could say, here's where I'm going and here's where it's going to end up. All these people that say, and I'm not knocking them, I'm just saying, all these people that say, here's where I'll be in 10 years. God is looking down and going, laughing, saying, I got something way better than that for you, right? I got something beyond what you can even begin to write on a piece of paper that's for you. So I can't go and tell you, hey, here's where I want to be. Here's where I'm going to be. But I can tell you that I want my music to reach as many people as it can, however that goes. And I want my original music to reach more people than my covers do. That's the dream, right? Yeah. But if God wants that's up to God if he wants that to happen or not. Because I don't have the ability. People ask me, they say, what are some tips that you could give me in building what you've built? And I go, I don't really have any tips other than be consistent, make good content, but more importantly than all that, put God first. Because Jesus will honor the effort that you put. If you put him first, he honors the effort, and you'd rather have him honoring the effort than the adversary. I'll tell you that right now. You might get everything you ever wanted working for the devil, but you ain't going to, in the end, it ain't going to pay off for you. So my dream and my goal is to have my original music that has Jesus just riddled all through it, played on TV shows and movies and things like this, commercials, whatever. That's my dream. I don't know if it's God's, but it's my desire. And I know that the Bible says that if we delight ourselves in him, he'll give us the desires of our heart. So that's where I'm at. But the main thing is just if my whole career ends right now and God says you're done with music, I'm moving you to something else, then I've already done it. I've already made it, right? I've already helped people to not kill themselves. I've already helped people to change their life. God's already used me to do that. So the Bible rejoices over just one. The Bible says that heaven rejoices over just one lost soul. So I rejoice over just the one, and I'm happy with that. Even if it all ends today, I'm happy.
That's a much different definition of success than a lot of people have. I like it. I like it a lot. I think that humility that you're talking about there, right? It's just, you're just looking for those connections. And if the other stuff comes, the other stuff comes. But this is what you feel like your purpose is, right? is to impact
It-
people through these connections.
Yeah, 100%. I know that right now this is what I'm here to do. I know
Yeah.
that that's the
Yeah.
case. Now, I'm not going to sit there and act like I don't want to make money and support my family and things like this. That's the truth too. I do need funds, but he always supplies that too. So, you know, I always tell people he's an infinite, so I'm good either way.
He's a what?
Infinite, you know, not a millionaire or billionaire, but an infinite. He's got
All
infinite funds.
That's the first I've heard that.
I've never
I like
heard
it.
that either.
Uh-huh.
That's great.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the Marty Ray Project before we
Okay.
go. Yeah, tell
Okay.
me about that.
So the Marty Ray Project was birthed out of this idea because I was trying to build a band at first, and thinking about names and all these things, and people would come and they would play and they would go, and they just kept coming and going. The only constant was my name, Marty Ray. So then I said, well, I'm gonna have to just name it me if it is a band. So it really is. It did start as a band, but then I started thinking, well, this is becoming more of a project of just seeing how far I can get on my own, really. Just me, God, and whoever else comes along the way, which they did come, the fans. So now it became this project of how far can Marty Ray get with just God and his fans behind him. And that's what we're still living the experiment here.
Right.
We don't know. We're still in it. And so it became a thing where I started calling all my fans and myself, I started calling us projectors, which means anybody that supports or does things outside of what they were raised and taught to do. Meaning, if you were taught that you'll never do this, you'll never make it here, you can't do this, you can't do that, can't all these things, but you did it anyway, then you're a projector. That's what it formed into. It morphed into that whole mentality. That's what
I
the
love
project
that.
represents. Yeah.
So tell me about the podcast.
Well, like I said in that bio, like you said in that bio, I didn't say it. You said it earlier.
I did. Yes.
Yeah, that was you, right? That was you, right? Yeah.
Indeed.
So, and I haven't heard Scott call me Hun in a while, so I'm kind of feeling. Can you say
Oh,
that
he's-
real quick, Scott?
I can, hon. It's a fascinating interview. You're amazing.
Thank you,
Hun.
Hun. I appreciate you.
We had to emphasize the hun for
See,
Marty.
that brought me right, grounded me. It just
Yeah,
brought me
he
right back
did.
down.
Look, he's all good now.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm smiling, all smiles. What was you talking about? He
podcast.
distracted me. I'm
The
sorry,
podcast.
Scott distracted me.
The
Yeah, the podcast.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, hon.
Yeah, Hun, can you shut up? Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, I would never want you to do that. So
it's
the
okay.
podcast, I was podcasting back in 2007 and 2008 before I ever had anything that happened with music, because I thought, well, this is the future. I said, well, podcasting is the future, and I would try to get guests on, like high profile guests, and I would say, will you be on my podcast? And they're like, what's that? What is a podcast? And I had to explain to them, it's kind of like radio, but it's not this and that, and they wouldn't want to be on. So I ended up naming it to Memnash Radio so that people would think that it was a radio station. And so that's how I got guests on. Ended up getting Darius Rucker on. But anyway, so before everybody, the whole podcast eruption came, I was podcasting. Now, that podcast lasted about 2 years, and we ended it. And then because I started getting things going in music, so I was just focused on that. And then about a year and a half ago, I started the Marty Ray Project Chats, and it's the same format. It's like this. It's an interview format, and it has we just interview people in entertainment, of all walks of entertainment. So we just interview people, and it's available everywhere, just like this one.
That's great. That's great. So it's the Marty Ray Project Chats is
Yes,
what it's
ma'am.
called. And Darius Rucker let her cry, so that goes right back to that, right?
That was, yeah, I met him in that podcast, and the thing I asked him at the very end, I said, what advice would you give? This is a general question that anybody would ask. What advice would you give to an independent person, a small-time person trying to get to your level? And he just said, just play. Just go at if somebody asks you to play. If somebody asks you, just go after it. That's kind of what it was, and that just off the bat, that kind of shifted my mentality about everything. I started thinking that's good, because you never know what opportunities could come from even the ones that you might think these are small time, these are small this and that. You don't know where they're going, you don't know what God has planned, so you better just go play. So then that's what I started doing.
Right, it's so simple, right?
It's very
You don't
simple.
have to overthink it. Just go
You
play.
Just do it.
love
Somebody
it.
ask you, just do it.
Just play.
Yeah,
Well,
it ain't gonna hurt you.
I might ask you to take us out with one of your original songs since you mentioned
Okay.
those.
Okay. Let's see.
Is there anything off the bat that you feel
Yeah,
inspired?
we just released a song called "The Storm."
Okay.
That was the last single that we released called "The Storm." It was a tornado came through Nashville, and tore up people's homes and cars
That's a
and everything
bad
like that.
one.
My buddy was one of them. He lost his home and everything, and he was. The next day, we were all trying to gather all these things and salvage whatever we could salvage. And he told me the story of what happened as this tornado is lifting the roof off of his house. He's holding his children and his wife in the closet because he can't fit in there. He's big like me, so he's just holding the door shut as this tornado is just lifting the thing off. I'm thinking, wow, man, that's crazy. And so as we help him get the stuff to the storage, and I'm headed back home, this melody and these lyrics come to me, and I pull up my voice memo and I say, I remember hearing all the noises, all the screams coming from the voices. Alarms went off and we all hid. My heartbeat pounding out of my rib. Look up to the sky and I pray for grace. God, please protect my family from an early grave. Looking all around at the aftermath, holding on tight to the ones I have. So that was what I wrote in that phone. And then I sent it to CJ, and I said, man, we need to finish writing this together. And so we got together the next day, and he played the piano so beautifully and did that, and I wrote the rest of the song, the lyrics with it that night, and we released it. It's called The Storm, Marty Ray Project.
Beautiful, beautiful. Maybe you can send us a file of that, and we can put it at the end of this interview.
Definitely.
Yeah, I like
Definitely.
that. It's beautiful, Marty.
Thank
really
you.
beautiful.
Yeah, Marty, thank you for taking the time out of your day to share that story, man.
Yeah.
Thank you, hon.
Tell me, first of all, does your beard have its own IG account?
It should, shouldn't it?
It should. Yeah.
It would probably be bigger than mine for sure.
No, you know what? But it might be something to do. You could have the beard in different outfits. Beard with food, beard
My
and braids.
children would love that. Well, it's a beard with food a lot, actually.
Yeah,
so,
see?
Yeah. That
Guess
would be
what
the
I
main
had for lunch?
That would be the grunt of the pictures right there. This is a beard with food again.
Right.
I know you're getting tired of seeing it, but
Yeah.
there it is.
But do you like condition it and stuff? Do you do all that stuff?
I just shampoo and condition it. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
normal people's hair.
And comb it out?
Yeah, I comb it. I
Yeah.
definitely, that's really all that happens with it.
Yeah. Well,
Some days I don't even do that. So
well, just think about it. It's just an idea. But so they
a good
can't find
idea.
your beard. But where can they find you on social media?
at Marty Ray Project everywhere.
Everywhere.
Wherever there's a place where you're at, it's at Marty Ray Project. And then wherever you listen to music, all my originals are there.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Thank you for this. This was beautiful. I knew it was going to be epic. I was just going to lean back and listen to a great, amazing storyteller. You did not disappoint. So thank you, Marty.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank y'all
thanks
for
so
having
much,
me.
Marty.
Thank
Yep,
you, hon,
absolutely.
and thank y'all so much. I love you both. God bless
Aw,
you.
Love you too.
Oh, God bless you, man.
Hi, I'm Marty Ray of the Marty Ray Project, and I'm the only one in the room trying to build a kingdom through music.